Yo, how's it going, everyone? Hope you all are having a wonderful day. I'm a mess, and we're back with episode 2 of the One Piece live action series. Now, this episode made some questionable decisions. As with any live action series, they are going to make some changes to try to make their story their own work without deviating from the original work too much. But I feel in this episode, they may have changed something a little too much. I'll go into more detail once we reach that point. So to start, the episode begins with Luffy trying to practice using his new double fruit abilities. He's trying to punch a glass bottle from a distance but misses and hits the chair right next to it. Then him and Makino sit down and have a chat about what it means to be a double fruit eater. In exchange for power, Mother Ocean turns her back on you, and the sea takes away your strength. The fact that they reference Mother Ocean is significant because in the canon of the manga, Mother Ocean is implied to be a living being. Not just a simple concept, but someone or something that created the world and people within it. It's the originator of all life. So that concept is also a thing in the live action. And then we come back to present time where Nami's trying to crack open the safe and Luffy's just being obnoxious. He's bored just waiting around, and so he decides to get up close and personal to Nami to see if he can hear her cracking the safe open. And of course her being like, hey, you're invading my personal space, back off. Pushes his hat away, which pisses Luffy off. You do not touch his hat. That's his greatest treasure. Nami at the moment just sees it as a plain ordinary hat, but it's the hat of his hero. It's Shanks' hat that he entrusted Luffy with. Although the flashback hasn't reached that point yet, so I'm assuming people who haven't seen the anime or don't know about it probably figured out that was Shanks' hat that he entrusted Luffy with. That's not something that is a huge secret even while watching only the live action. Okay, and eventually Nami gets the safe open, and what's inside, we see a couple of things. So, we see the golden cylinder which houses the map to the Grand Line. Not of the Grand Line. To it. This is something I made a mistake in the last video. I had always assumed it was of the Grand Line, because when you first enter it, you don't have a lock pose, so you could get lost easily, so you need a map to help telegraph where you are. But no, that was not the case. It's to the Grand Line. It's a map of the East Blue leading you into the Grand Line, which is actually a really interesting concept because in the original anime and manga, everyone knew how to get to the Grand Line. You just make your way to Locktown, then travel due west to reach Reverse Mountain, and then you're in the Grand Line. In this, it seems that information is kept completely secret. It seems the world government and the Navy are doing everything they can to limit all forms of information relating to the Grand Line, including how to get there. So they probably erased all forms of maps leading there, except for maybe a small handful because they need their Navy officers to be able to enter it and reach Navy HQ. So this is actually a brilliant strategy to limit the numbers of pirates entering the Grand Line. It makes it easier for Navy HQ to sort of segregate them and limit their power and potential. Now, enough about the map. There's a few other things in this box that really catch your attention. First, the thing that caught my eye immediately was Kuro's wanted poster. I mean, I understand Axan Morgans is really proud that he managed to capture and kill the legendary Captain Kuro of the Thousand Plans, captain of the Black Cat Pirates, but to keep his bounty as a memento in your safe, that's a little too much. But the other two things are of significant importance. One, being in that upper right corner right next to the bounty, is a card from Baroque Works. That is the card they give to people to invite them to join them. Now, I doubt Axan Morgans captured someone and just took that card as evidence. I have a huge feeling that Baroque Works also recruits corrupt Marine officers, which will be brilliant on their part. Not only are they recruiting bounty hunters and potentially pirates as well, they've decided to also include the Navy, which allows them to thus manipulate information and tamper with evidence, making them that much harder to pin down. And lastly, there is a folder that is labeled as confidential. Don't know what it's about, the Straw Hats don't even care about it, but it's clearly significant since Morgans kept it in his safe. And then next up, Nami begins describing the world of One Piece, which is the exact same as the manga. We got the 4 blues, we got the red line, and the Grand Line that intersects it. And as they're discussing this, there's suddenly a flare going off, spraying red smoke onto their ship, knocking them all out. And as they're falling asleep, Luffy performs one of the most daring feats in One Piece by displaying the greatest act of deep-throating I have ever seen. I'm sorry, I had to make that joke. How could I not? I mean, he shoves the entire long golden cylinder down his throat. I mean, it's a brilliant idea. No one's ever gonna think that he swallowed the map. So it's in a safe place, but still, my god, Luffy. I mean, his rubbery body does help, so. And then we get the really cool logo, which shows Buggy's Jolly Roger instead of the Straw Hats, which is really cool. I'm loving this. I'm gonna go ahead and assume they're gonna do this for every episode. Now, the Straw Hats wake up in a box. They're freaking out at first, but the box opens up and they see they are now in a circus, which it's Buggy. He's obviously gonna have a circus going. Makes sense. But the thing that caught my eye, I saw people sitting in the stands. I'm like, wait, is this like an actual performance? Are there people paying money to come sit and watch? That's brilliant of Buggy. He encourages people to come check out the Buggy Circus and disguises the fact that they're a pirate crew at the same time. And that way he can make a little extra money on the side, but no, everyone is chained there. So they're all hostages. So Buggy kidnapped the people of Orangetown and is forcing them to sit at his circus. This is unusual for Buggy. He's not that type of person to draw in an audience. Well, in the present of the manga, he is. But when he's first introduced, he just wants money. He's not after anything else. He wants money and laying low. However, in the live action, they changed that. This is the thing that kind of bugged me a little bit. In this one, Buggy wants to be the center of attention. He has his entire routine going where he wants the spotlight solely on him. He does not like sharing the spotlight. He emphasizes that multiple times. He doesn't like sharing it. And as he entered the ring, he was like, what is going on? The spotlight was laid. You guys missed your cue. And Moji, where is the dancing lion? Which is hilarious. That's in reference to Richie, because clearly the live action cut him out. Moji and Kabaji are still there. They're Buggy's two main crew members, like his second in command and his third in command, although it's not clarified which one is which. But the fact that Richie is in there, like, I was so disappointed, although I understand they can't train a lion to do everything, and the CGI probably would have looked very ugly. So I'm cool with him not showing up, but it begs the question. After Buggy leaves temporarily after he's defeated, who's going to take over the crew? I mean, no offense to Kabaji and Moji. They're both highly skilled and intelligent, but they're not on Richie's level. Richie the lion is definitely the one who's most qualified to lead the crew after Buggy. But now that he's gone, who's taking over? Now, this is hilarious. Luffy recognized him from his wanted poster back at the Marine base. He's like, oh, you're Binky, right? In reference to Binky Sake from the anime and manga. And that really annoyed Buggy. He's like, excuse me, I am Buggy the Clown. Buggy, the genius jester. Which is in reference to his name post-time skip, not at introduction. Same thing with his personality of wanting to be in the spotlight. That makes sense post-time skip because he's very famous at that point and running a delivery service, which pretty much ships off pirates to go help out whoever pays them pretty much. But at this point, he's supposed to be in hiding. He's laying low because he is a coward. He's afraid, which is sort of like a PTSD because of what Gold Roger used to do and how he would act. Because remember, Buggy used to be a part of his crew with Shanks. But in this one, they did the PTSD a little bit differently. They made Buggy mentally unstable, but he still has great ambitions. He wants to be the king of the pirates still. He hasn't given up that dream just yet. Although there is a reason he's in the East Blue. It's not elaborated on here, but it is referenced. And now as Luffy's talking about Buggy, he's like, yeah, apparently everyone knows who you are. And he's like, what? What about my nose? Are you making fun of my nose? Which I was like, wait, doesn't he have a fake nose? And then in a close-up, you could see, no, that's his nose. His nose is big and bulgy. It's not a prosthetic nose. It's his real nose. And I was like, oh, shit. What happened to Buggy? In the manga and anime, it's a fake nose. And now, Nami decides to negotiate with Buggy. She's like, hey, what if I give you a new freak for your crew? That way you have a new entertaining act. Buggy's like, okay, let's see it. She grabs Luffy's hat, tosses it in the air. Luffy stretches to grab it, and in the meantime, Nami flees the tent and notices the entire town was destroyed. Buggy left nothing in his wake when he took over this island, and that devastated Nami. She remembered what happened to her hometown and how pirates completely wrecked everything. And because of this, he was captured and brought back immediately. And then we cut to Kobe, who had just gotten enlisted to the Marines. And now he's about to finally start on his dream, but Morgan's is gathering everyone because they have an important person who showed up. Now, as you can tell, Morgan's clearly put all of the blame onto that Marine soldier tied to the stake, who is the same guy Nami beat up and stole his uniform. Morgan's put the blame on him and is currently punishing him so he doesn't get in trouble with his superiors. And the superior that showed up to this base is Garp. Now, everyone is in awe of him because he's the man who captured Gold Roger. Well, except Kobe. Kobe is a little nervous because he helped the Straw Hats break into here in the first place and made sure they could escape. Although he didn't do that because he was a part of their crew, he did it because he owed Luffy his life. He wasn't going to turn his back on him at the end. He helped them escape and then enlisted in the Marines. And after that, we cut back to see Nami trapped in a cage and Zoro tied to one of those spinny wooden things. I don't know what it's called. But Nami had a lockpick on her. Well, she actually had 4, but the clowns only found 3. Funny thing was, the 4th one was in her boot. This is making me question some things, like how lazy of a search did they do? Anyways, Buggy is starting to torture Luffy by stretching him out, but it's not working. He's thinking Luffy eventually is gonna reach his limit and stretching and start feeling a tremendous amount of pain, but Luffy was just joking about it. He's like, you do realize I'm rubber, I can stretch. This is not gonna bother me. And so Buggy was like, perhaps let's try something new. You seem to idolize someone. And this hat looks strangely familiar. I recognize it. I knew a pirate who wore this hat a long time ago. And then he started to elaborate on Shanks. Apparently Shanks betrayed him by trying to stop him from being in the spotlight. He didn't want to, quote unquote, keep his star from shining too bright. Which again, not Buggy's character. He's trying to lay low. That's why he came to the East Blue. But apparently in the live action, the reason he's in the East Blue is because Shanks betrayed him, trapping him there. At least that's what's implied. I don't know for sure if that's what happened, but that's a potential theory. Now Buggy's starting to get impatient and loses his temper and grabs a little boy from the stand. And then he's all like, tell me what I want or the boy gets it. Luffy's starting to get pissed. He's like, leave him alone. He has nothing to do with this. He's like, what are you talking about? He's having fun. He's at the circus. He's having a great time. Aren't you, boy? And Luffy just loses it. He stretches so thinly that his hands and feet just slip out of their restraints. Which is like, Luffy clearly could have done this earlier, but he was just humoring Buggy until he lost his temper. But Buggy didn't care. He just treated this as a joke. And so Luffy punched him, sending his head flying. But as we all know, Buggy ate the chop chop fruit, allowing him to detach his limbs as much as he wants and then put them back together. Now, in the anime, that meant he was immune to swords, not blunt attacks. Blunt attacks still did a lot of damage, so a punch to the face should have severely hurt him. But apparently that did nothing to him at this point. Since he was able to detach his head, it negated the impact and just simply sent his head flying. Which, okay, weird, but what's even weirder is that at one point he managed to punch Luffy in the guts and Luffy reacted to it, which Luffy should negate blunt damage. Like Buggy and him were supposed to be like polar opposites in terms of weakness. Luffy was susceptible to cutting because he's made of rubber, he's easier to cut. Buggy is supposed to be weak to bludgeoning because he can't dissect his body to negate the impact. He still takes the impact, but dissecting his body would have sent that body part flying, but not negated the impact. Here, apparently Buggy is immune to both. Luffy could still take both, which was very weird. Anyways, Buggy detached one of his hands and got one of his cloud bombs and blew it up next to Luffy's face, knocking him out. And then we cut to Kabaji, who recognized Zoro. Zoro was the one who killed his brother. And so Kabaji wanted revenge, which was perfect because that distracted him while Nami was picking the lock, and Zoro kept his attention the entire time. And then after that, they cut back to Kobe. This is going to keep happening throughout the episode. They're going to go back and forth between Kobe and the Straw Hats. Now, Garp was instantly suspicious of Kobe because he joined the Marines the following day after the Straw Hats left. So he had some questions for Kobe, but at the same time, he was doing something that was kind of disturbing. He was feeding the transponder snail, which is like, oh, okay, cool. That's not a bad thing. But seeing a snail with teeth, like in the anime, it was cool. It's a cartoon, but in the live action, oh, it was so disturbing to see. I cringed so hard. Anyways, Garp is questioning Kobe and whether he has what it takes to be a Marine because he was fully convinced that Kobe was lying. He knew what happened with the Straw Hats, but he was keeping it a secret. And so eventually, Kobe confessed. He told the truth. He told them he was held captive by a pirate named Alvida, and it was Luffy who saved him. That's why Kobe was with him. He didn't actively help him steal the map, but he wasn't going to stop him either. And the moment Garp heard Luffy, he freaked out because, obviously, Luffy is his grandson. We all know that already. But it seems like the live action is going to reveal this earlier than when the anime did. And Garp continued to question Kobe. He's like, why are you pretending to be a Marine? Luffy isn't the type to implant a mole into his enemies. And Kobe was like, no, I'm not pretending. It's been my dream to be a Marine and Luffy helped me achieve it. I'm not a mole or a spy for him. I'm an actual Marine. This is what I wanted to be. And so Garp gave him one last question. Do you have any allegiance to this Straw Hat Luffy? Kobe was like, allegiance? Well, no, but I don't hate him. I don't want to see him punished. Well, actually, he doesn't say that. He says he's a pirate. He needs to be punished. Although he's hesitant while saying it, he still has to say it because he wants to be a Marine. that is his goal and dream. Luffy is a pirate who is an enemy of the Marines. He has to say it even if he doesn't mean it. And now we get another cut back to the flashback from when Luffy was a kid and the bandit dude showed back up. Luffy was annoyed about him disrespecting Shanks, and the bandit was not gonna let him get away with it. And Shanks shows up. It's like, hey, don't threaten my friends. You could spill booze on me, but the moment you put your hands on my friend, you're dead. And so Lucky Roo shot one of the guys who was coming after Shanks, and thus began the ultimate beatdown. Shanks and his crew just manhandled the bandits, but it was hilarious because after Lucky Roo shot the pistol, he started using the leg of a lamb as a weapon, which was like, come on, Lucky Roo, just grab a stick or something. If you're strong enough to swing a leg of lamb, a stick should do more damage in that case. Or at the least finish eating it so you're hitting it with pure bone and not the soft meat. Anyways, we retreated to some really well choreographed fights, which put the red-haired pirate's skill on full display. We got to see how badass they were back in the day, although nowadays they are far more terrifying. And after that scene, we go back to Buggy and Luffy wakes up in a giant water tank where seawater is being poured in. So because he's surrounded in seawater, Luffy lost all of his strength. He couldn't break out of the glass tank. And so Buggy was like, there's only one way for you to get out of there. Give me my map. And Luffy was like, no, my friends will come to save me. Buggy proceeded to continue taunting him. He's like, your friends are not coming, just give it up. And as Luffy's starting to drown, he flashes back to when he nearly drowned as a child. He remembered how the Sea King came and surrounded that tiny boat that him and the bandit were on. It flung them into the ocean, ate the bandit, and as he was sinking, Shanks showed up and grabbed him out of the water. He's like, Luffy, are you okay? And then we are introduced to our first ever Sea King. This massive behemoth of a monster attacked Shanks' ship, taking a big bite out of it, and then we witnessed the first display of Conqueror's Hockey in the live action. Now, it wasn't what I expected. Shanks told the beast to get lost, and then we zoomed in on his pupil. His pupil began to shrink, and at the same time, we see the Sea King's pupil, which began to stretch out, which I'm assuming is an indication of fear, and not effect of his Conqueror's Hockey. Although his pupil shrinking while the Sea King's dilated got bigger, may have also been just the visual representation of hockey in the live action. I'm hoping they change it to match the current of the anime and manga, but we'll see in the future, because this is how it was episode 1, or chapter 1 of the manga, episode like, what, 5 of the anime? Where it was just Shanks glaring at the beast, and the beast got scared and fled. Then as Luffy hugged Shanks, thanking him for saving him, Luffy saw blood on his arm and noticed Shanks lost an arm to the sea beast. At that moment, Luffy couldn't forgive himself for costing Shanks one of his arms, and Shanks told him, it's just an arm, your life is more important than that. And then we go back to see Zoro and Nami as Kabaji is throwing daggers at Zoro. Although despite him spinning Zoro and throwing daggers, like this is supposed to be his act, but he doesn't hit Zoro once. Like, come on, man, he's tied to the wheel. How do you miss? And not only that, he ends up hitting the rope. Like, come on, Kabaji, I know you're angry, but focus, my guy. And in this moment, we kind of see what Zoro thinks of Luffy. He doesn't need to believe him that he's gonna become king of the pirates. He knows that Luffy believes in himself. He doesn't need to believe him. He just needs to believe that he believes in himself. He believes he can do it, so Zoro is supporting him for the time being. And then Nami gets out of her cage, kicks Kabaji. Zoro rips the rope that Kabaji tore with his dagger and begins to choke Kabaji out. And then Nami and Zoro rush the center stage, and Nami tosses her staff, shattering the glass that Luffy is in, saving him from drowning. And then they begin their fight against Buggy, where he splits his body into sections. They can't do anything against him because it being in sections is just negating all of their attacks. So they come up with a plan. They start tossing his limbs into luggage, locking it in, causing Buggy to have his iconic little moment where he's just a hand in boots. Honestly, this scene was just as funny as it was in the anime. It was so satisfying to see Buggy like this after all the pain and suffering he had caused. And then Luffy sends him flying out of the tent with his Gum Gum Bazooka. And as he's freeing everyone from Orange Town, they're wondering, are you our new captor? You're a pirate. You should be just as evil as that guy. And Luffy's like, I'm a different kind of pirate. I'm not the type to enslave people, torment them, cause them to suffer. I'm just a seeker of adventure and fun. And Nami gives him this look of absolute shock. He's like, wait, you're being serious? You're not gonna hurt these people? Well, okay, I feel really bad about using you like this, but I have my own town to look after too. So despite her having a newfound respect for Luffy, she's still not loyal to him yet. And now we get our final cut back to Garp and Kobe. Garp is telling him there's corruption spreading throughout the Marines, and Axe Morgan's was a perfect example, whether referencing him lying about what happened with the Straw Hats escaping, or the fact that he may know about his connection to Baroque Works. Either way, Garp made an example of him, and he's recruiting the rest of the Marines to hunt down the Straw Hats to stop them from entering the Grand Line, which includes Kobe. But Kobe, he's a full-blown Marine now. Despite his reluctancy to go after the Straw Hats, he's still gonna do it, not knowing Garp's connection to Luffy just yet, but he'll learn about that in the future. And now, as the Straw Hats are leaving Orange Town, the mayor offered him some food. He's like, well, I see you guys need it more than me, but, well, I'm very hungry. So Luffy lets his hunger take over, and he grabs just one piece of bread as a snack. He needs something to carry him for the voyage. And then we go back for the final part of the flashback. Luffy tells Shanks, he's like, hey, you are right, I'm not ready yet. But when I am, I'm gonna become my own captain. I'm gonna go after the One Piece and become the king of the pirates, surpassing you and your crew. Shanks is impressed by this. He's so happy to see Luffy chasing his own dream and not trying to follow in his footsteps. And thus comes the iconic scene where Shanks entrusts his hat to Luffy, his most precious treasure. He leaves it with Luffy until Luffy becomes a great pirate and they are reunited again, thus giving Luffy the motivation he needs to become the greatest pirate in the world. And to close out the episode, we get another quote from Shanks. Luffy tells him that if the path to what you want seems easy, you're on the wrong path. This is in reference to how chaotic their adventure is going to be. It's not going to be a simple trip. It's going to be filled with chaos and disaster. And Luffy's just giving them a heads up. Like, yeah, what we're going to do is going to be crazy. If you're looking for something just chill and relax, you're on the wrong team. Although, don't expect me to let you leave just because of that. And then finally, we go to Nami, who had a secret compartment on the ship. And there she had this little mini transponder snail. And she gives a certain someone a call, informing them that she has the map. This is significant because we all know whose crew she's a part of. She's clearly trying to get in contact with Arlong. Arlong wants that map, maybe to return to the Grand Line, but Arlong is from the Grand Line and he's a merman. Wouldn't he know the way back super easily? I highly doubt he got lost in the East Blue. But we'll have to wait till the next episode to find out. And that's gonna be it for this one, folks. So, a little disappointing with what happened with Buggy. He seemed more of like the typical psychopath who's just obsessed with attention, which is not Buggy's character at his introduction. It's the current Buggy, yes, but not the past Buggy. And then this whole obsession with the map to get into the Grand Line is very confusing, especially with people who are from the Grand Line. Wouldn't they know the way back? That's just my assumption, but I guess that's not the case here. Anyways, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you for the next episode, and remember to keep having fun. See ya!